It's been a while since I've uploaded, but trying to work on my PC with the heat of the summer makes my room become a... So with my time off, I decided to get through the many movies that are on my watch list. So I ended up watching Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, the 2011 movie version starring Gary Oldman, not the 79 BBC miniseries. The loose premise is a story of George Smiley during the bleak days of the Cold War, an espionage veteran who is forced out from semi-retirement to uncover a Soviet agent mole within MI6. And whilst there was a lot of twists and turns in this spy thriller filled with deceit, lies and a political cat and mouse game, there was only one thing I could think about when the credits started to roll. About how much sexual tension there is between all the men. Okay, let me explain what I mean by that. I'm not here as part of an anime fandom or Tumblr blog shipping all the male characters regardless of age or relationships they have. I'm here to talk about the ambiguity and implied relationships in this film, filled with the connections and relationships, but with the Soviet Union. To talk about this, I will be delving a bit more into the story and obvious spoilers for the 2011 movie, but I will be using sources who focus on either the 78 BBC miniseries or the 74 novel. So I will try my best to focus on only the movie and specify when either a mention of the show or novels are used. In the height of the Cold War, the leader of the MI5 espionage department named Control steps down after many failures to gather intel and getting multiple agents killed. George Smiley, his right-hand man, also retires from the department only to be brought back in secret by the government to seek out a mole in the department suspected by Control. From this point onwards, we hear from all the key members of the board, called the Circus, each named Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy. At the end, they catch the mole leaking information to the KGB, Bill Hayden, who is then shot whilst in captivity by his best friend, Jim Prudhoe. And in those last two people is where my question lies, but first a little bit of a history lesson about the actual Cold War. In the UK, we were known as a disgrace during the 1950s and 60s. With scandals and espionage, many spies and agents were linked and blackmailed, most of which with proof of their homosexuality. The most famous one being a story of John Vassell, who was a clerical officer at the British Embassy in Moscow. Feeling isolated and alone whilst in Moscow, something not helped by his hidden homosexuality due to the fact that it was illegal in Britain and the Soviet Union at the time. After meeting another man in the embassy, he was introduced to the homosexual underworld of Moscow. Whilst there, Vassell indulged in the freedom he had always wanted, to find a release. However, he was photographed at the club, in compromising positions of multiple men. The said party was arranged by the KGB as a honey trap in which to blackmail. He went to this party in 1954. He was arrested 8 years later and served a 10-year sentence for spying for the KGB. Vassell had been leaking information to the Soviet Union for 8 years, even when he was sent back to London after 2 years in Moscow. Vassell only started to gather suspicion after a defected KGB agent had told the Americans how he had gathered intel from him. The same with the Cambridge Five, a group of Cambridge graduates who were convinced by the Soviet Union's ideals. The spy ring was active during the Second World War as well as the Cold War. Allegedly, two of the men, Guy Burgess and Anthony Blunt, were homosexual, and a third, Donald MacLean, bisexual. Each one of the five have their own stories that deserve their own times, so I won't go over them in too much detail for now, but this distrust didn't just come in the UK. In the mighty US of A, there was the Lavender Scare, a continuation of the Red Scare against communists, with Senator Joseph McCarthy's anti-communist campaign, where he targeted gay officials and claimed that gay men and lesbians were Soviet sympathizers. In 1950, there was an interim report named employment of homosexuals and other sex perverts in government. The conclusion of which states, "It is in the opinion of this subcommittee that those who engage in the acts of homosexuality and other perverted sex activities are unsuitable for employment in the federal government. This conclusion is based upon the fact that persons who indulge in such degraded activity are committing not only illegal and immoral acts, but there are also constitute security risks in positions of public trust." It was papers like this that led to President Eisenhower to sign Executive Order 10-450, Security Requirements for Government Employment. In 1953, one such security risk being any criminal, infamous, dishonest, immoral, or notoriously disgraceful conduct, habitual use of intoxicants to excess, drug addiction, and sexual perversion. Whilst not directly mentioned, I think we can read between the lines a bit. This did not only target homosexuals, but also people who the McCarthy Party hated. They were labelled as gay or queer to add to this veil of distrust, even if it was fake. Whilst it was not illegal being gay during the time, it was not the American way. Even years after 200 teachers were fired for being accused or found out of being homosexual. The Stonewall riots took place 16 years after Eisenhower signed that executive order. This is all the knowledge that writer John le Carre would have been aware of when writing these characters.
And Bill Hayden, together of course. The Inseparables.
There are many relationships shown in this movie, but only one has a strong connection. The feeling that they are together whilst others fall into scandal, disloyalty and cheating. And that one relationship is the implied relationship between Bill Hayden and Jim Prudhoe. I say implied as most of the relationships in this film kind of are. There are only actually one confirmed gay relationship in the movie, which is Peter Gwillim's, which ends with him having to break up with his partner, because if it came out that he was out, then he would be easily blackmailed and seen as disloyal or a threat. None of this is ever spoken about. Peter never tells his partner why he must do this. He just says, I think Benedict Cumberbatch, who plays the character of Gwilym, said it best about his character.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Gwilym on the front of it is very at ease with who he is. His visual look is very sort of dandified. He's got a great blonde bob and a fantastic Citroen DS car and these fantastic, beautiful clothes. And it's all going swimmingly, but that's part of a sort of personal armor that slowly gets stripped away, and you learn that an awful lot of it is a front for him, and there's a crisis both in his heart and his home life and in his mind by the time he goes through what he has to go through for Smiley that alters that perspective we see of him at the beginning of being a bit of a Bond-esque glamour boy in this otherwise very dour spy world.
And that's all we see in the rest of this film. A facade that is being put up just to be able to work, to live without being hated, distrusted, ridiculed for being who he is. Unlike Jim and Bill,
together of course, the Inseparables.
From our first introduction to Jim, we see him as a mystery, a man used by the best to get the information they need, only to be double-crossed and gunned down in the street. From here we only learn about Jim's past and his close connection to another spy in the circus, Bill Hayden. The scene showing this has a soft and intimate setting as Smiley is at Connie's house going over the history of the members of the circus. The youth all around the house, even in the other room 2 teenagers are making out, not bothered by the people around them, leading to the inseparable bond with Jim and Bill. Whilst never explicitly saying a romantic relationship, they were never apart as an inseparable bond amongst a group of spies. But this bond is never mentioned afterwards. It is only at the end, when Bill is found out to be the mole, that we see this Shakespearean tragedy of these lovers. Although Bill is the only reason that Jim is alive, but in hiding, a teacher at a boarding school, Jim feels betrayed that Bill would go against his country. Jim leaves his school and travels to where Bill is being kept a prisoner. But without speaking to him or even trying to confront him, Jim aims down the barrel of his rifle and shoots. Unlike in the miniseries where Jim strangles Bill to death, Bill dying in his arms. Both a tragic story in the end. This is where people kinda don't agree on this portrayal of Bill in any media, as some call him the villain and feel like it's portraying homosexuals in a negative light, and some others feel like it is irrelevant that he is the villain, but one of the few homosexual characters has the only honest relationship and true relationship, which is also debatable as Bill is known for cheating on multiple people, George Smiley's wife being case in point. Personally, I feel that whilst the sexuality of Bill was not intended by Lacar to villainize homosexuals or portray as untrustworthy, I can say that people who either feel attacked or want to push their negative agenda are going to go to this character as an example of it. In a world of spies where people are betraying each other every day, Bill just did what he thought was right. The same way Ricky Tarr sleeps with an informant to get information that later would get that informant captured and killed. Bill is just that, a spy who was doing their job in the height of the Cold War. But what does that mean for us?
Patients should know when hospitals are talking about men or women. And we shouldn't get bullied. And we shouldn't get bullied into believing that people can be any sex they want to be. They can't. A man is a man and a woman is a woman. That's just common sense.
Okay, this bit is not going to be scripted at all because I don't know, it felt wrong. It felt wrong talking about this in like manner I have been. I don't tend to try and get political, but it's disgusting. I every time I see that clip, it makes me sick. I'm not a trans person, but I do know trans people, and I know people who struggle with just identifying themselves, and literally seeing the leader, the prime minister of my country, saying stuff like that is awful. It is just clear just ignorance, because they're talking about stuff that they don't know, and they're just assuming that it is a problem. They are saying that they are being bullied for this, when I had to look up this stuff. But from multiple studies I found, in like kids or people under 20 who either identify as trans or non-binary or are questioning, 50% of them are bullied in school. 50%. And I believe, of seeing studies that are saying 30% had attempted or self-harmed. And I wanted to try and be fair. I thought, let me have a look to see if anyone is being attacked at all for being following the Conservative Party or being a Tory. When looking that up, all I could find on multiple articles was how people in the Conservative Party and people who support the Conservative Party are in a scandal for bullying. I have not seen a single article or anyone talk about Tories being bullied, yet that the fucking Prime Minister is saying, I am being bullied because people want to be themselves. It is disgusting and awful. I don't know. This video is not going to end like this. I was researching this video and all the stuff in it when that happened. He just said it in front of thousands of people on a television to all Conservative people, all members of the Conservative Party, and I generally don't know what to say. But I want to make people aware because I don't want that to be the end. I don't want ignorance to win because it shouldn't. So I will put up on screen a couple of charities I know that either focus with transgender questioning people or non-binary people in children with mermaids, and that's more of a UK-based one, but the Trevor Project and the Outright International either focusing on more LGBT in general or trans. I believe that is more US or worldwide. I want people to be good people, to look after one another, and it's tough for people, especially if you're in a difficult situation like that. If you're wanting to research more, I'd also put the website links in the description. Go check it out. If you're just wondering what it is, go check it out. It's good to know about that stuff. Or if you're questioning or feel like what is some good steps or some good places I can look into that might help, then look into it. I know there's another video, which I'll also link, from the YouTuber PhilosophyTube, talking about how it was impossible for them to get an appointment just to try and get the surgery to transition. And that broke me as well, because it's not right. And the leader of our country is saying stuff like that. It's making people scared when they shouldn't be. They should feel comfortable in their own homes, their own place. But if the leader of the country is saying that, it's disgusting. And I don't know what else to say about it. But I'll say it again, because I feel like I don't want to end on a sour note. Be kind to one another. It's the only thing I'd ask for people to do.